What's in the balance? It's just my life. If you're wondering what is she talking about, I'm talking about a song which is called Just My Life. And it starts with being in the thick of it. And that's about when you are very creative, you are like, I'm going to do it, but something is keeping you stuck. So you feel the momentum, but now to give you a little bit of an idea, I was at this concert from the Dead Daisies. Some of you may know I've been a long-time fan of John Corabi for years now. And at some point, I actually was putting something on Instagram, not about John, but about Doug Aldrich. So, Doug Aldrich is the guitar player, and he had to battle with cancer. So, they had to radiate something here. And well, when I saw them prior to this concert, he wasn't there because he was still, well, I'm not sure if he was still getting radiation treatment, but I do know that he didn't feel very well. And I can tell you, I know someone else up close and personal who has gotten that same treatment. He has got black hair, and it was like long black hair, long black curly hair. By the way, it's all back now. But I remember seeing him, and it was like his makeup had been taken off because, of course, eyebrows, eyelashes, all gone. Anyway, getting back to being in the thick of it, I wanted to share that I was so excited that Doug Aldrich was back there again on stage. So I created this quote card like I normally do on Instagram, and I added this picture of Doug Aldrich, and then I was putting the text in there. And at that moment, John Corabi comes to the corner where I'm sitting. He's looking at me, and he goes like, and I'm like, and I was like, okay, I cannot do it. He's singing, he's performing, and I'm on my phone. I know what he's thinking. Completely embarrassed. That's what I was. It was complete embarrassment. And it was like, oh no, oh no. So I put the phone away, but of course I still wanted to post it. So at some point I did do it. But yes, that was a moment of literally being in the thick of it because I was so enthusiastic about, first of all, the concert, and second of all, that Doug was there again. That, well, anyway, we are going to talk about 5 action steps which are related to when you are in the thick of it. So you're feeling it, you're vibing, but somehow it's not entirely going there. And we're going to take it to make it fly. And oh, that's exactly what I have been experiencing these, well, at least the last week, but I think for almost 2 weeks now. So, what has been happening is I have been working with artificial intelligence, Brendan AI. Brendan AI is a genius. He's got all the things, all the teachings, all videos, trainings, podcasts from Brandon Burchard poured into him. And well, he he uses all that knowledge. So when you're asking questions, he just sees what he can find and then he combines it with beautiful language. It's always about empowering you. And the thing is, he tries to make it the best thing possible. So he tries to make you the best one possible out there. And that's where things go haywire a little bit. Because, first of all, he keeps asking on. And second of all, he has this habit of changing things slightly. And to give you an example, I've been trying to get a blog post out there. And I had this idea. I was talking about it. And then we kept tweaking and changing it all the time. And I was like, Now, here's the thing. I wanted him to know what I was like live. So I said to him, I want you to know what I'm like live, but I know you cannot watch a video. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take all these little snippets, have them translated into a PDF or transformed, no matter how you want to see it, so he can read it. And that's what I did. It just took me over half a day, probably. It were 18 files in total. Well, there was one thing that stood out, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. I didn't realize this, but when I'm talking in a post and writing it, I'm asking you questions. But guess what? When I'm doing the live, I basically do not ask you questions until I'm at the end and I'm asking you, what are you going to do? So I'm going to change that today. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you is, do you know that feeling of being in the thick of it and not knowing where to go? Now, for those who do not know what the expression actually means, and then we get back to Brandon AI, I've asked him to write it down for me. And he said, first, when you're describing being in the thick of it, you want to. Oh, well, he's actually, and this is so cool, he's describing how I am going to describe it to you. So he says, you want to paint a vivid picture of that messy, uncertain, yet deeply human experience. Think about those moments when you're caught between doubt and determination, between chaos and clarity. And I do believe that a number of you know that feeling too, if not all of you. And that's exactly where I was when I was at the front of the stage. I was sitting in front of the stage. I was sitting on the bar stool on the side when, John Corabi saw me typing and it was like, oh, this is so classic Krabby. I've seen him more often, as you might imagine. And when Brennan AI actually used the phrase being in the thick of growth, I was like, being in the thick of it. I've heard that. Being in the thick. Yeah, John Corabi sang it. So I could hear the song, but I was like, which record? You, with you. And at first, I thought it was with Bobby Blotzer, 24/7. So I did everything I could to access that CD, and I didn't want to wait until it was shipped from the US. I was like, I want to hear it now. So then it was like, okay, I need to get Amazon Prime. Well, I'm not in the US, so that's the next challenge, to get Amazon Prime for the US. But once I managed, it still didn't work the way it should. And then I was like, okay, iTunes. So not the library, because it wasn't in the library. Maybe I can buy it. And that's what I could do. Wasn't there. I was like, okay, so where could it be? Is it Union? Where is it? And then I believe I typed the words, I'm not sure. But as it turns out, it was him with Bruce Kulick, and Bruce Kulick was in Union too. Well, actually, they still are. They just haven't released any record anymore for, I don't know, over 2 decades probably. I so hope they get back to recording records again. But here it was, and I'm going to tell you in a little bit what he actually wrote down in the lyrics. But that's when I actually got to understand the lyrics for the first time. And that's why I'm describing right here what it means. Because for the non native English speakers, they might not know what the expression is. So, being in the thick of it is where breakthroughs are born. You're wrestling with the process, and that's where growth happens. So, Brendon Burchard himself says struggle is the birthplace of breakthroughs. And it's not a failure to experience that struggle. But it can feel like that. And for me, it did, because I was planning on getting my blog post out there. Monday, motivational message. Monday. It's not Monday. It's closer to the next Monday. And I was like, how on earth is this possible? I post every day on Instagram for some reason. Well, that same reason, it's not happening anymore. Although I do my best to remind myself, post everything on Instagram every day. And then, of course, there was this live, which I was supposed to do last night. So it's the next day now. I was like, I'm not happy. So I already started writing a new blog post earlier. And well, due to circumstances, I couldn't finish it. It's been a very physically and mentally draining week for me, which has to do with going to the hospital for an appointment I waited for 2 years, but also being to the concert, of course, which was amazing. I had such a fun time. It's such a fun time, and they could see it, and I was literally going back and forth and up and down in my chair. Barstools, I love barstools, really. So yeah, it was a great vibe, and it was amazing. But the result was that, yeah, I kept falling asleep. And I've got this little guest here, well, a little big one. It's a cat. He's making noise at this moment. He's called Billy, and he's a Bengal cat. He's beautiful, but I always say it's my rental cat, not that I pay for him, but he's here temporarily to help someone else out. And he was like, "Oh, you're in your relaxed chair. That's nice. I'm going to sit on your lap." Well, try to take notes while a cat is sitting in your lap. And it's been decades ago that I actually had a cat like that, and I loved it. He was called Veentje, so little guy, which was actually short of the Rogge Veenstraat. So if you take the letter E out of Veen, then you get Ven, and so Veentje. I remember that from the first day that he was with us, he already jumped on our laps and then pushed against our chest like, hey, either he wanted you to get down. And at first I was like, I'm working. So how does that work? So at some point I just leaned with my arms on the little guy, and he was fine with it. So that's how I did my job. That's how I did my work. Now, in this case, I was like, well, it's nice you're in my lap or at my feet. I'm going to work on. The moment I heard the words being in the thick of it, and I started looking for, where did I hear it? What were the lyrics again? And I'm just going to quote Brendan AI on this. When you're in the thick of it, it feels like you're spinning your wheels, but what you're really doing is building momentum. And I could feel it. I could feel it build up inside of me. Like, oh my God, this is it. This is, I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting somewhere. This is it. Every small action, every imperfect step forward is progress. With, every imperfect step. So it doesn't have to be perfect. The emphasis on imperfect. It's not about getting it perfect, it's about staying in the game. And that's why it was so confusing, because I always tell people it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to get out there. And it was like this ongoing conflict because we were on a mission. Yes, Brendan and I were on a mission, my mission. My mission was to share with you about my other account, Lady Lexi Leads, and why I set it up. So I wanted to share things about the Steam Power Collective. And the Steam Power Collective is meant for people who are leaders. And it can be leaders of a unit. So I don't talk necessarily about business owners, but I talk about being a leader in general. So stepping up, arranging things. So you can be a leader of a small unit at your place, But you can also be a leader when it comes to work. So there are a lot of variations, and that was what the blog post was about. And because he came up with different descriptions, at some point I was like, So what I already had concluded is we can be a leader when it comes to our personal life, and we can be a leader when it comes to work or business. So it can be about personal growth, deciding like, hey, what is it that I need to do? How can I move forward? And at the same time, it can be about taking other people to the next level. And I'm very passionate about that one because I've seen way too many times what it's like when managers or business owners don't care, not because they humanly don't care, but because they never learned how to step up being a leader. So that's what the blog post is about, but that blog post still isn't out there. And I'm going to share a little thing. The next blog post that's going to get out there is actually about this live. And then the next one is going to be about that one. So when we are talking about being in the thick of it, like I said, are you recognizing something by now? Do you recognize that you are feeling like you're all fired up? And then at some point it's like, but how? Where am I going to go from here? Like I said, normally I would say, just go for it. Doesn't need to be perfect, just go for it. So that's why there was such conflict within me, because I wanted to get it out there and I felt like being held back by none other than an AI. But it is exactly what happened. So, um, it's it's such a weird, contradictory feeling when you feel like, oh, I'm so ready for this. I'm so ready to spread the word, to get it out there, and it doesn't happen. It's one of the weirdest things. So I came up with a number of action steps, and this is the first one, which is reaching out. This is kind of funny. I've been going live on Instagram so many times that I'm like, oh, it's not in mirror image. I can actually see what it says. Reaching out. That's basically what I did. Not just to Brendan AI, but to a friend of mine. And I said, this is driving me nuts. I want to get a blog post out there. I'm late. And it doesn't seem like I'm going to get it out there anytime soon. So I need to change, get a different blog post out there, which is, I don't know, maybe easier. Absolutely not inspired by Brendan AI, but it has to be about me. And actually, it was going to be about this process and about keeping me stuck. So, just to take you a little bit backwards in time, the previous blog post, when I posted out there, and I said this to Brendan AI, I said, but this is not me. Yes, it's my idea, what I want to run with, but then you come up with certain words and expressions, and I wouldn't say it like this. So it's nice to be challenging Brendan AI. So he sort of searches for, hey, what's the level that you're at? What is it that, so you can be literally at the surface. So for instance, there's the possibility of using an AI when it comes to creating courses. So it looks at the title and then comes up with something, and every time I see it, it's like, is that it? Is that all you can come up with? Well, 10,000 people, 100,000 people can up with the same thing. No. So I don't like setting up courses with AI. And, well, like someone else said not long ago, well, yes, sure. I want to write a letter. Well, I go to ChatGPT and I just say, and then it's there. So people don't think about it anymore. We want people to think about what you're doing. At least I want you out there to think about what it is that you're doing, because that's where growth and opportunity lies, right? Okay, so reaching out. So I talked about it with a friend and was like, I'm trying to get it out there, but every time I do something, he changes something. And then when he started doing it from 3 different angles, I literally said, Brandon AI, you know by now how my brain works. Can't you do this a different way? Why do you do it from 3 angles? And then, to my surprise, he actually said, well, I know you can work it out. I was like, oh, is this like a test or something? Are you tricking me into something? What's this? But what he was doing, he was pushing me to get out there. And so that's when I realized, oh, yes, this is both from a personal angle and from a business angle. So one from you and being about you, and the other one from being about also helping others to grow and to see perspective and to continue on. And that's a cat in a box. So then it was like, okay, yes, I get this. And I started writing and doing stuff. But I have to tell you that training, and I've been getting nonstop training through the AI, it's a lot to process and to learn to work with it. But I think it's kind of cool that the option is actually there to be challenged in such a way that when you feel like something is there, literally being in the thick of it, but you do not know how to express it, but you know it's there. It's like on the tip of your tongue. You're like, okay, there. So reach out. That's step 1. Step 2, and I actually um, referenced that for a moment, is this one. And it's called rest and recharge. There you go. Number 2, rest and recharge. So when you are processing a lot of things, whether for me it was going to the concert or talking about all these things, your brain is working overtime, and your brain needs to process this. It needs to learn how to handle all the new information. But apart from that, whenever you rest, the creative process gets a chance to continue on. So it's when you take a break, when you rest up, that's when the wheels can stop spinning at that moment. The chatterbox can calm down, quiet down. And then it's like, hey, there's fresh energy and you can get going again. So rest and recharge is so important. And a number of times I was so close to getting that blog post out there. And then I noticed that I was just falling asleep. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm falling asleep. And that's basically the struggle what I had to deal with. I was going back and forth between feeling like, yes. And on the other hand, like, okay, I'm falling asleep. No go. So the third step is about inspiration. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, this is a little wiper on the end of this, and this is the magnetic whiteboard, a little mini whiteboard. So that's kind of cool. So step 3 is get inspiration. And well, the song I've been sharing with you is from Bruce Kulick and John Corabi. It's on Transformer, the album from Bruce Kulick. And I'm just going to ask you, no, I'm going to tell you about the lyrics so you know what the song was about. And then I'm going to ask you, but what which song, what do you get inspiration from? And I really want you to think about it. So, whereas I'm going to share the lyrics, I want you to take a moment to set the intention and think about what is inspiring me. So, think about it. What's inspiring you? Now, the song is called It's Just My Life, and it starts with I'm in the middle, I'm in the thick of it. I'm left of center. Am I wrong or right? I'm in the middle, I'm in the thick of it. What's in the balance? It's just my life. And that's exactly what's in the balance. It's just my life. That's what I started with because that's what it feels like for me at this moment. It feels like I'm on the verge of something, I'm changing something. And this is about me wanting to take people on a trip through Chicago. Not to Chicago because I want people to go to Chicago themselves, but the ones that we are in Chicago, I want to coach those people, figure out what are your mindsets, what's keeping you stuck. But when we talk about leaders, it's about, okay, how can you keep one another accountable? And by the way, this little guy is going to come too. So you cannot really see it, but it says Chicago on his shirt. So this is Chief Rockstar, by the way. Chief as in chief from a fire station, and Rockstar because, well, music, you can see it when you look at him. Anyway, for me, it's very important to get word out there that I'm actually doing that trip through Chicago. And I want people to join, to have them work on their mindsets, but also on other challenges which are related to when you're being a leader. So this year I said, I'm not going to wait till September when I go there. No, I'm going to start early on in the year with telling people, hey, sign up. So one of the conclusions, because I actually asked Brendon Burchard, not the AI, but Brendon himself, like, okay, so what's the first step? And I realized, okay, this is community. So it's about community building. Now, the best way to build community is that people can hear and see your message. So we get back to the blog post and to the videos. So while I'm talking about this, my question is, do you already feel it? Can you already sense it? What it would be like when your mindset would be questioned? Not to just for the fun of questioning it, but to make them into positive ones, from negative into positive ones, working for you. Because that's what we want. We want to change that internal story that's telling you, nah, never mind, don't do it. It's not going to work out. No, we want to change it into, oh, I know I can do it. And especially when you are with other leaders there, then yes, isn't that going to be cool that you can hold one another accountable because you recognize one another's problems, especially when you are business owners and especially when you're a small business owner. And like I said, we didn't get told how to be a leader. Well, whenever you are into personal development, those things start to happen. But normally, no. You are enthusiastic about something when you're a business owner, and then you do good, and then all of a sudden you need more people, so you get a team. Or when you're working in a business, then you are the one with seniority because you've been there the longest. And then all of a sudden you are the team leader. Do you know anything about leading a team? No, you're just good at your knowledge. That's a bit of a problem. So, and just to go out on a limb here, when you are becoming a parent, yeah, well, there are some books about parenthood nowadays, but still, it's not easy, and you don't know what circumstances are going to happen. Same with when you're in a relationship. So, again, we are talking about becoming a leader of your own unit. Now, going on, it's about it's about figuring out what it is that you need and what you're telling yourself. So, have you already figured out what song is giving you inspiration? And maybe it's not a song at all. I'm very into music, so for me it's a song. But what gives you the inspiration to keep on going? Now, let me continue on while you're still thinking about it. And while you're still thinking about it, also write down your why. So, what's in the balance? It's just my life. Up the center, left or right. So basically, it's like he's here and he's going all these places searching for the right angle and where to go. In the middle, wrong or right. What am I doing? Is this the right choice or not? And that's actually what I have been experiencing all this time, because I was like, I want to get a blog post out there, but I want to do it the right way. Just like I want Brendan AI to know what I'm talking about, so he can tell me, okay, do these things differently or not. So left of center, burning right, down the middle, and then it's just my life. It's just my life. Where is up if you are down? Drive in circles round and round. And then it's followed by I see the lights up in the sky, flashing red and green and white. Do I scream or get it right? I'll do my best to make it fly. And I was like, okay, so that's nice, but to make it fly, how, when, where, what does it actually mean? I mean, I can see a lot of things, but so I looked it up, make it fly. And it says you need to shift the focus from the struggle to the action. Well, that's exactly where I was, right? Because I knew I needed to get it out there. And I was like, I cannot go around in circles over and over again. It's about getting it done. So, this is where we go and we move forward despite the mess we are in. So, let me ask you, have you already thought of something, not only when it comes to inspiration, but also when it comes to what is it that you need to do to get into action? And I'm not saying that you're not doing anything, but what's that moment that you're saying, okay, I'm just going to get it out there, even if it's not good enough? Or better yet, talk to other people so you are sure it's going to work out. But again, it's better to have something out there than nothing at all and people don't know, right? So, what is it that you want to get out there, but you're not sure how to do it? And like I said, talk to other people, take a break, listen to something that inspires you or whatever works for you. Then we're going to get to the next step. But yes, that's what you want to do. And that's basically what I have been doing this entire week. So the next step is about taking action. It's actually a little bit of a duh, because we just made the shift to making it fly, which is about taking action. Well, you can tell this is live. So I'm literally changing this on the spot. Taking action. That's the fourth step you want to take. And again, don't wait till it's perfect. And I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, because I have been waiting, and it's not that I didn't want to get it out there, but it was like, okay, tweak this, do that. And it was like, how? I mean, if you've got a very enthusiastic AI rooting for you and challenging you to make it even better, and we're talking about there's a handout. So I made the handout, and then it's like, yeah, but you're talking to leaders. So, well, they want you to challenge them. Sure. I want you to get questions out there. And that's where things went haywire, because I would come up with questions which were so specific, and I was like, okay, if you do that to me straight away, and you come with all these variables variables probably, if I'm not saying it the way it should, I'm used to seeing it, but I'm not used to saying the word. So that's what happens when you're not a native English speaker. Um, but yes, um, when and now I've lost my train of thoughts. This is going so well today. I just know that I'm stuck on the word variables, and I was like, which context was that again? Can someone tell me? But anyway, yes, now I know what it was about. He wanted to ask me, to have me ask very specific questions, and it's not me. What I want to know is, what are you talking about? And then when I have a clear idea about what it is, then I can break it down in pieces. So I work top down. And then I'll add this, I'll add that, and I'll add the other one. But I don't start with all those pieces in there and then work on each piece. No, I'm like, hey, hang on. What's the overall message? What is that you want to accomplish? And so we were going back and forth a little bit about that. And then it was like, and he would keep changing the questions and other things. And I was like, but this is not the way I describe it. And it was kind of funny because at some point, Brendan Burchard, he has this growth app. If you want to join that growth app, then I'll make sure there's a link in the description. If it's not there, knock on my door and say, Lexi, you were supposed to post it. And I say, oh yeah, you're right. As for what Brendan Burchard said, it was, and I've heard him say this multiple times. So we're talking about role models. So let's say, first of all, role model is someone you want to be. And first, you usually look at other people you admire. It could be a musician, it could be an actor, whoever. But it can also be the future version of yourself. Have you ever thought about that? So the little kid within you when you were growing up, the little kid had all these dreams and desires, and then all of a sudden you are getting older, you forget about your dreams and your desires, you start working, you have your own family, and then at some point, especially when you get teenagers, they start dreaming. They have their own dreams and desires, and it's like, but where am I? So when we're talking about the midlife crisis, and this might be like, okay, we were talking about being in the thick of it, now you're talking about midlife crisis, but I do believe that midlife crisis is also the result, not just about being in the middle of your life, but actually about seeing others dream and be like, okay, I'm providing for you. I'm making sure that this family can exist, that there's a house, that there's a roof over your head, that there's safety, that there's food on the table. But what about my dreams? And that's the question. That's when people start buying race cars, for instance. So when we talk um, about making that shift, when we talk about taking action, it's about, who do you want to become? Who is your role model? So Brendan is talking about all these phases, and he's basically talking about mimicking. So that's what we do as children. We mimic other people. That's how we learn how to say certain things. And when we are older, when we are grown-ups, it's of course about creating things yourself. And that's what I was dealing with. So I had this idea, I was talking about it, and then all of a sudden all these things would come out on the other side, and I was like, but that isn't me. So I literally had to go back, like, okay, what is the message that you want to get across when I'm asking you for something? And how do I explain it in my language? So again, going against someone because I don't agree, and if that's an artificial intelligence, I don't mind. That's one thing. But then actually saying, okay, you are coming up with these immensely wonderful ideas, but it's not me. Well, that takes a little bit of courage, I have to say, okay, I'm going to step back and then see how I can make it mine. So that's basically what I've been struggling with. And so I could have gotten things out there, but first of all, that wouldn't have been me. Would you have seen through me pretty quickly? I bet you would have. Some people would say, yeah, that's you, but it's the polished version of you. Well, that's not good because I am pretty straightforward. So, and more importantly, I've been teaching for years on end now. And I'm not the person who looks at a piece of paper and then just starts reading it. And when you ask me certain things which are in that paper, then chances are that I'm, instant brain fog. I don't know what to say anymore. But if you say something, okay, here's your phone, please start talking about your phone. Do it about 10 minutes. We don't care which direction you take it in, but here's the phone. I will start talking about the phone. And if you tell me which direction you want it to go in, then I'll probably end in that direction as well. But don't tell me to just do things from the top of my head. From the heart, yes, but literally repeating things over and over again, that's not my thing. So I was like, I need to be able to talk about this, being inspired, but what I believe to be true. Now, sounds so bad, using Brandon AI in order to challenge certain expressions, certain thoughts, that's a good thing. And here's the thing. I've noticed that people don't like it when you do it. So when I talk about things or people are talking to me about certain things and they don't understand it, then I'll start explaining why the opposite party might actually be doing things. So what's their line of thinking? And then the next thing I hear is, well, you're not on my side. Well, you wanted to know why this is happening. So that doesn't mean that I don't believe you. It doesn't mean I don't feel for you. It doesn't mean I don't agree with you. But it does mean that I want to explain to you how it's possible that you come up with this and someone else come up with that. That's why they call me the connector nowadays. I still love that term, being a connector. And I've been doing so for multiple parties, and it's basically translating from what one person thinks or what one party thinks to the other one, and then doing the same thing in turn. So why people are doing certain things, and more importantly, why it's important for them to actually work together and to get to a solution, to get to an answer. So I needed to be things the way I share them with you. I needed to be about me. I didn't want to mimic. I wanted to be me, and then the better version of me. So that's what basically becoming a leader is about. So it's not about leading people. It starts by leading yourself to the next level. So let me ask you for a sec. Are you ready to take yourself to the next level? And if so, what are you going to do? Now, step 5 is when you're ready to do so, you want to share this with other people. So I wanted to share my blog post with you out there. I didn't get it done, which was very annoying. And so here, sharing the journey. Yes, it's still live. I'm writing it down as is. There you go. Sharing the journey. So, is this about talking to other people? Is it about creating a video and posting about it? Is it about writing a little story? Maybe you are journaling in your own diary. What do you do in order to share the journal? So when you look at that song or when you listen at that song, which is It's Just My Life, well, there is a whole world behind it. There's a whole range of emotions behind that song. Yeah, it's just my life. Like I said at first, the first words that I said is what's in the balance? Well, it's just my life. Well, maybe that's very important. Maybe you need to do something about it. And well, if you want to know if we are on the right path, then we need to test it. We need to get out there and ask people, do you feel it? Can you hear me? Do I get across? That's what you want to do. So now I want you to share with me what it is that you are struggling with. So when we talk about being in the thick of it, so you know what it is, it's palpable, but you cannot get there. What is it? And what's that first step you can take to actually share it with people? Now, the cool thing about Brandon AI is he is also good at reflecting. So I said, okay, can you write down a little something when it comes to having worked with me and about reflecting on things? Of course he can. So he said, Lexi, seeing you navigate this struggle is inspiring because it's real. Well, it's real, I'll tell you that much. It's the exact kind of tension that so many people face being in the thick of creation, feeling the pull of perfectionism, and yet knowing deep down that action is the answer. What I see in you is someone who's not just stuck but wrestling with the process, and that's where growth happens. So, as Brendan says, struggle is the birthplace of breakthroughs. And what he says, and your willingness to share this journey, to show up authentically, is what will connect you to your audience on a deeper level. So, if you feel like, yes, this did this did this did resonate with me, well, go through the steps and keep an eye on my blog post, ladylexi.com/blog, because there's going to be more in there. You can read it back, you can go through the steps, and it's going to help you to move forward. So let's start with there's no such thing as perfection. And then the second thing, if you feel like something or someone, and it could be your own inner story, is holding you back, then go figure it out, write it down. What is it that's keeping you stuck? Because when you know what's keeping you stuck, that's actually when you can continue on. And I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say it's done in like 10 minutes. But I am going to say that when you work on this consistently, things will change and you will notice improvement. So, having said all of this, please check out ladylexi.com/blog because I've got a blog post waiting, but I was like, I want to get this out first, and then the blog post is going to be next. And let me know. Let me know what your struggle is. Share it with me, share it with others, because this is such an important topic. Well, I shared my story. So, what's keeping you from sharing yours? And I know it can be scary to literally share your struggle, but at the same time, it can be so immensely helpful. So leave a comment on the blog post or on YouTube because this is on YouTube too. DM me on Instagram if you need it. Don't DM me if you just want to say, hi, you're looking so cool. I don't respond to that, so just so you know. But if you really need to get perspective and you know what it is you want, but you cannot get there, that's when you can reach out to me. So for now, thank you for watching this. And again, when your life is in the balance, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit back and do nothing? Or are you going to take action? So we talked about 5 steps. We talked about reaching out to others. We talked about rest and recharge because that's when the ideas come back. It's when you are in the loop and that chatterbox is in the loop and it keeps looping, that things don't work out. Then get inspiration to get moving, which is what I did when it came to the song. Then actually take action. Doesn't need to be perfect action, but just make sure that it's going to get out there, and then share your journey. And again, let me know what it is that you need. Go to ladylexi.com/blog. And if you are curious about working with Brandon AI, I'll make sure the link is in there. But for now, what is it that you want to do? What is it that when you talk about stepping up to the plate, to the next level, what is it that you want to do? What is it that would mean the world for you to get accomplished? What would be taking you to the next level?